Welcome to another episode of the AI Lab Unfiltered podcast. I am Drew Veach from BizStream. I am joined by Mr. Pete Terryn from New Wave.
Happy to be here. Thank you.
I'm glad you could make it, Pete. We are remote. It might look a little different than the studio we're typically in. We're doing this because we opens up more opportunities for other guests that are coming from abroad, and we can show off more stuff on in this type of setting. It's easier to show off some of the software and some of the tools and some of the applications that people have built. And today will be no different. I'm really excited for this episode today. But we have to thank Think Tank Thought Leadership for producing this podcast. They help us with all the social media. They help us with the editing and post-production. They help us with the graphics. They help us with publishing. And that is a big one. That is a big one that Pete and I know nothing about. So we have them help us by publishing out to Apple, to Spotify, to YouTube, everywhere you're getting this podcast. They're the ones responsible for that. So we really, really want to push them and thank them. Thank them, number one. And then if you're looking to do a podcast, Think Tank Thought Leadership is who you need to use. It's a very turnkey solution. They're great people. Hit us up, reach out to us on LinkedIn and even ask us. We're happy to talk more about it, even privately. I don't know what else I would say differently, but but definitely check out Think Tank Thought Leadership. I'm going to bring our guest on, Mr. Dave Velko.
Hey guys, how are you? Drew, Pete, good to see you.
CEO of Extreme and level 3?
Level 2.
Level 2 CrossFit trainer.
Yep.
There's levels.
There are levels. Yes. And I have made it to level 2. I'm pondering on getting the level 3, which is a certified CrossFit trainer. But that's a lot of studying, and I don't know. We'll see if I make it there.
And travel to get like certified, like the actual test, right?
Yeah. So I did my level 1 certification in our office, actually. It was around COVID time. So it was a virtual thing. And then I flew out to Boston for my L2 because they didn't hold any of the courses in Michigan. So I flew out there to do it out there.
I've already learned something. It was only 30 seconds in the podcast. So I'm already smarter.
Well,
yeah, we have a lot of education that we have to go through to be a CrossFit coach, for sure.
All right. It's probably smart.
It's a level 0.
Yeah. Is there a negative level?
We'll get you in the gym. Come on, let's go.
All right.
And a great way to do that is what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah.
This is a great start. So this came about, and I've known Dave for decades at this point. Big history, long history. But it's funny because you work in the same office as me, and you work in a different division than I do, and we're not a very big company, but we're always talking about AI. We're always going back and forth about different ways to use it. We're always learning about different stuff. You came up with a fully vibe-coded app built in Lovable.
Sponsor us, please.
Yes, please sponsor us, Lovable. And it's completely ground up vibe coded through there. They had a challenge that they threw out of, what was it, a 6-week?
6-week challenge. It was called a Lovable Shipped. And they're doing more of them. I kind of fell off following what they're doing with it, but I think I'd heard about Lovable through you and your podcast, honestly. So yes, sponsor them. And what I saw, you had built a website, which inside of a board meeting or something like that, and you'd shown that to me. And I was like, wow, that's actually really kind of cool. And I've listened to some other podcasts out there. And honestly, a lot of my education comes from TikTok. So I see a lot of these kind of things on TikTok. And so I started to explore, like, what are these tools and what could we do with them? Mm-hmm. And so I looked at Replit, I looked at Bolt.new, and I tried those, and they were a bit too techy for me. And so I was like, well, if Drew can build a website in Lovable, I should probably give it a try.
The bar is low, yeah.
And I think it was back in 2016, something like that. I had read an article about somebody doing like 2,100 and some burpees, like 10 burpees a day for years. And I threw that challenge out, I think it was around 2018, to a bunch of Facebook friends, and everybody was on board. And so I just put together a Google spreadsheet. We set up a Facebook group that they could go in and talk about, hey, we did this, give each other a little bit of shit as you go through, like, haha, I did way more than 10 burpees or whatever. I did 100 today or whatever. But one of the problems that I ran into was people were forgetting to log their burpees inside the spreadsheet. And let's be honest, it's a spreadsheet, and that's just not cool. I started getting messages from people going, hey, can you build an app? I know you work in tech. Can you build an app? And back then, there's no way. Like, I started looking into like, how can I tie Google Sheets into like SMS messaging to remind people if they didn't log on their day, send them a text message to remind them to go log their burpees or whatever. And that burpee challenge lasted probably right around 6 months. Once summer hit, people started to fall off. But a lot of that had to do with there were no reminders anymore, right? Fast forward to earlier this year, I'm hearing Drew talk about it and showing this off. And so I started playing around with it and thought, I wonder, could I build what people were looking for 100% using AI? And I did it. And it was just kind of timing that Lovable Shipped came out. And so I applied for it, got in, and started building. So starting from ChatGPT, describing the application, describing the vibe I wanted to get out of it, the look, the feel, the branding, and whatnot. Because if you look at a lot of the vibe coded apps out there, a lot of them look the same, or a lot of those websites look the same because they're all
kind of defaults to I wouldn't say a template, but a same kind of common denominator.
Yeah, so they're using that basic layout, right? And I wanted it to look different. So I had ChatGPT help me come up with some branding, had it help me come up with the logo, and kind of took it from there. It gave me an initial prompt to drop into Lovable. And honestly, it just kind of stubbed it out and built it. Now, the first version of it looked like all the other applications. And I had to remind Lovable, like, no, let's talk about the branding, and here's the branding and whatnot. And so that kind of goes to one of the first lessons that I learned during this vibe coding thing. It's not perfect. And you guys have talked about this on your podcast, right? Hey, I've used ChatGPT and it didn't give me the information I wanted, right? And we've all heard that.
Yeah.
Well, it takes iteration. Probably the first thing that I've learned is that you got to iterate with this stuff to get it to do what you want it to do.
So in this whole process, so you had an idea, I wonder if I could do this vibe coding.
Mm-hmm.
Challenge came out. It was a perfect alignment with it going, this is what's going to push me to do it. Now I've got a goal. I've got an idea of what I want to build. You looked at different tool sets, like you said, to kind of weigh out which ones are going to be the best. Then you looked at the design, which I think is critical, because I think you're right. I think a lot of people put it in and go, oh, this is really cool. Well, look at the other ones. They look very similar.
Yeah.
So then you came up with this app, and I want to show it if you can bring it up.
Yeah. So
and you're not a developer by trade.
I'm not a developer. I have done development in the past, so have a little bit of a tech background in it. I work for a tech company, my day job. So I can speak the language. I know some of the dev tools, and I think that's important to know. But one of the things that I've learned as we've kind of gone through, and I've built now 2 apps. The second app I built, I didn't need to use those dev tools or that dev knowledge. It's transformed so much in another 4 or 5 months, right? You guys are always saying this is the worst it's ever going to be, and it's unbelievable how true that is.
All right, let me pull it up here.
Yeah, so this is the homepage, and as I kind of talked about in that introduction, I wanted to build something that was 100% AI. And even the video background that you see here, that's all done using Google Gemini. So it's all done, all that video is done using Google Gemini. And if you look close enough, you're like, yeah, wow, those deadlifts are a little weird. But I wanted to do something that was 100% AI. The only thing that I couldn't accomplish with AI at the time, and I probably could have figured it out, was the actual logo. I wanted a vector-based logo so I could scale it up and down and use it in different formats. ChatGPT doesn't spit that out. So I ended up hiring somebody on Fiverr.com to actually turn it into a vector base for me. I'm sure I could have found tools, but I kind of just wanted to keep moving forward and not stop.
Sure.
But this is the marketing side of the website. And again, I just kind of described the pages that I want. And it's probably very similar to the process you went through. Hey, we need a homepage. Here's what it needs to say. We're going to have a video. Here are the different sections that I kind of want to see on there. And it brings everything up there. I want an about page. Okay. It built out an about page. Now, a lot of this stuff is pretty AI generated stuff. I still need to go back and refine it. You know, talking about that iteration. It's not perfect. I'm not really pushing it out there, but you know, it's got contact forms on there. And more importantly, we've got a sign up. So I'm going to have to open this in a new incognito because I'm logged in somewhere else. Strivox.com, Strivoxx.com. For the login, we've added in Google login. So had to go through their API to do that. I could have added additional socials. So if we wanted to use Amazon or Facebook login, we could have done that. But we've got just simple email and password, or we've got a whole sign up process that they can go through as well. One of the neat things that I wanted to include in this is if you are already logged in, that you can actually invite somebody to your challenge. So if I build a challenge, hey, we're going to do 10 burpees a day for 30 days, and I want to invite Pete and I want to invite Drew, the system will allow you to send them a link that includes a code in there, and they can sign up, or if they're already signed up, they just sign in and it'll automatically bring them and put them into that challenge. So this is kind of the marketing side of things. When you log in, you can see your dashboard, and it just, you know, pretty basic dashboard. It shows you here's your active challenges. Here's challenges that you've completed. And then you've got things like your other challenges that you're currently involved in. And then you can see who's participating, how many days left, your progress in them, things like that. If I want to log activity, I can simply click log activity, and I can type in how many I've done for the day. I can put in some notes if I want to, and then I can go ahead and hit log activities, and it went ahead and logged the activity for the day. I can view it and view the details of it, and it'll show what I've done. I can look at the timeline. I can go to previous days and see what other people have done. We can see here that we've got both Brian and I did some burpees yesterday when we were at the gym there. If I want to invite other people, like if I want to invite Pete or Drew here, I can just go ahead and click invite friends. I can copy that link or just send them the invite code if they're already registered in the system. And it'll go ahead and I can send them an email with that link, and they can go ahead and sign up right from there.
There's no need to invite me, Dave. Don't worry.
Told you we're going to get you into the gym, Pete. So it's a fairly complex application, right? You can also build your own challenges, right? So it's got tools to create a challenge. And we've got two different challenges. You know, your standard challenge, which is, hey, I'm going to complete a specific number of activities a day or a grouping of activities. So, hey, if I want to do 10 burpees and run a mile a day, I can add those two different options in there. Or if you want to, you can set up a total quantity challenge. And one of the challenges I've done in the past is called a 10,000 double under challenge. It's basically jump rope and getting to 10,000 in the month of January. So I wanted to include something like that you could just log a total number until you were done, right? The other thing that's included in this is any of these challenges, if I go back to here, I can see a leaderboard of who is in there, how much have they done, who's the leaderboard. And so if he had more people, and it also shows the scoring system. So I wanted to make it a little bit more fun, right? So if you wanted to compete better, get higher on the leaderboard, what can you do to make that happen, and explain to the users how they could do that.
So as you're kind of poking around here, having done some of this low code, no code stuff myself, how much of this was one shotted? You mentioned iterations before, and for those people that don't follow that term, just AI gets it right on the first time would be a one shot. How much of this was one shotted, and how much of it was iterated?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I would say a lot of this was iterated. Okay. Probably around 60 to 70% is iterated. At the time, I don't think the AI was as good as it is now. The other app I built, I would say 80% to 90% of it was one shot.
Wow.
The difference in a matter of months is just astounding. I think also going through the process initially in the early versions of vibe coding and understanding, like, how do you work with it? You take those arrows, right? And so going through it again, there were things that I did initially on this app that I did differently just because I learned throughout that process. So I think it made it a little bit easier, but I can't, like, the technology itself has just gotten better as well.
And rapidly. So technology is getting better as you're using it. Yeah, and you're reiterating as you're using it. Hey, did you ever have to go, hold on. This is a great proof of concept, but I gotta start over, knowing what I know now. I got so far into it. Now I gotta start from the beginning again with cleaner prompts in the beginning. Did you ever have to do that? Like kind of reset?
Yeah, another great question. The very first version of the app, I ended up scrapping. I spent a day trying to work on it, and it really wasn't following branding, and I was trying to get it to force it to redo the branding, and I just wasn't happy with how it ended up looking. So I ended up scrapping it and working with ChatGPT to rebuild kind of from the ground up, and had it help focus on the branding, the dark backgrounds, I wanted to have the fire kind of look to this. So the orange and the reds that kind of are in here. And the look and the feel of the challenge tiles that are up here and how they look. So early on, I scrapped it. You guys have talked in the past, I think, about the 80-20 rule. And this kind of goes along with your question, Pete, right? 80% of the application came together pretty quick.
Yep.
It's that last 20% that took the most. Testing it over and over and over again, and finding bugs and trying to fix those bugs. That was a little disheartening at how long that took, but knowing that last 20% is the difference between success and failure, you just kind of plug through it.
And no dig on any kind of vibe coding platform like Lovable, but it kind of baits that hook for that first 80% because you go, oh my gosh, look how cool this is, and like 3 prompts, and look how awesome this is going to be. And then it kind of gets frustrating, like you said, where it's like that last 20% is like, shit, it's just not getting those fine details that I want in there. And it's not the platform's fault. It's because it takes only a couple of prompts to kind of set the framework of it. But then getting all the minute functionality in there to work properly, and to, like you said, this is not a simple marketing brochure type of website like I've built through. This is a very complex. You've got Google sign-on, you've got a login area, you've got different variables in there that per user change in there. That's a complex system.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I really discovered going through the process on the iteration side of things, there was a lot where I was trying to debug and fix things and trying to describe, going into the console, copying and pasting specific chunks of code in there, saying, this is where the issue is. And it would come back and say, hey, I fixed it. And then you go look at it. I don't see any changes, right?
Yeah.
And there's a part of me going, are they doing that because they want more of my tokens? They want more money to, right from that. I don't think that it's quite that. I think that the technology just wasn't quite there at the time, right? The other thing that's interesting too is when I started in the Lovable Challenge, I think it was week 3, they came out with agents, and it was night and day coding without an agent and then coding with an agent. Like, it seemed to fix bugs and issues a lot faster. I was still having to iterate. Like, you've said you fixed this. This is the 7th time you've said you fixed it. It still isn't fixed. Reworking that prompt, I want you to take a step back, look at this holistically, develop a comprehensive plan to fix this bug. Present the plan. If I say, okay, then fix it. And it would sit there and churn and churn and churn and churn and spit out a pretty comprehensive plan for, hey, this is how I think that we should go ahead and fix it. Here's where I see the problems. This is why the previous fixes didn't work. All right, go ahead. And then it would go ahead and fix it. But it took it a number of those times to be able to do that.
Yeah.
You talked about the second app being getting to more of a one-shot type success there with less iteration. The technology advanced, but how much did your initial prompt advance? Because you could go to Lovable and just say, build me a CRM, and it'll build something, right? The closest approximation to a CRM that it thinks is a good CRM, but it might not have any of the features. It's definitely not going to have the colors and set up the way that you want. When you went to build that second app, did you have like a giant app or a giant initial prompt that you had worked on? Or did you start with a smaller prompt knowing that you were just going to kind of keep building off of that?
So the second app I did with the same, kind of the same process. I started in ChatGPT, right? And now we've got ChatGPT. I think it was either 5 or 5.1 when I started it. And I started it with, I want to build, this app was for paper trading. So if you're not familiar with that, it's fake stock market trading based on data, and you can pick your stocks and enter and buy and sell and stuff like that. There are tools out there, but some of them are overcomplicated. So I wanted something a little bit simpler. I also wanted to pull in a specific data set. So I went into ChatGPT and crafted a prompt that essentially said, this is what I'm trying to build. Ask me some questions. What am I not seeing? So I'm trying to challenge myself and getting ChatGPT to challenge me to answer questions before we jump into that prompt, right? And so answered questions, asked additional questions, and ChatGPT actually came back with the initial prompt for me. It's not like I came up with it. I reviewed it, but honestly, it was a copy, paste into Lovable and go.
Yeah. Since
building Strevox and moving on to this other app, Lovable now has built-in database. It's I forget the database that
Supabase, I think.
Supabase, yeah. They're using Supabase on the back end, right? For Strevox, I had to go in. I had to set my own Supabase account up. I had to, do all the API keys and do some of that technical stuff. Moving forward on the second app, it pretty much did it all for me. And I was just blown away. Like, I didn't have to go through step by step on some of that database stuff, right? It just took care of it for me, right? So the technology leaped forward. So that initial prompt was like, I've got a basic login. I've got a basic paper trading application right there in front of me. And so it was just minor tweaks to get to where I want to now. I think the interesting thing about the paper trading app is it kind of goes along with what you both were talking about before, where I could go out and I could get Salesforce, which is a huge application and it's expensive and does a ton of stuff. But do I really need all of that? And there's no, right? I mean, the three of us are in sales. I basically need to be able to know who I've talked to, what it's worth, put in notes on there, and then send me a reminder to follow up on these people, right? That's a pretty basic application, and I can customize it to my specific needs. Lovable's perfect for that, right? I don't have to go out and customize all of that information or customize a system. I can build it to my specific needs, and the cost is significantly less. I could build an app that our entire office could use and tie it into Google Login and, specifically to our domain. And now I'm not paying per user fees. So there's some really interesting things that can come out of this type of application or the vibe coding.
I would argue it's the same amount of setup too at that point. Of
Most likely, yeah.
Building one with a little bit of knowledge of how vibe coding works versus, okay, now I have Salesforce. How do I set this up?
Right. Yeah. Do you, just to kind of stick on that point for a little bit, do you guys think that what you just described, within every company, there's likely going to develop somebody who is just really good at the vibe coding thing and can build things for the organization. Do you think that is kind of the beginning of the end for these gigantic SaaS companies where, to your point, Dave, like, why do I want to pay thousands and thousands of dollars a month to subscribe to this thing that has all these features that I don't use, when somebody or myself can build something that I know that has exactly what I need, and I'm just paying for maybe some hosting fees and things like that. And then if I want to change something about it, I can make my own changes. I don't have to submit a request for a feature. I can just build that feature.
As somebody, my day job is we do SaaS, right? Case management software. And that's something that has been rolling around in my head. Like, why couldn't we just build, our existing case management tools in something like this? I think there's a couple of things right now that are preventing that. Security is probably the big one, right? We don't know. This is, Lovable is, I think, Swedish company, if I'm not mistaken, something like that, right? And so a lot of the data that we deal with has to be 100% stateside. It has to be within the government cloud. Will Microsoft come up with tools to help do that? Probably in the future, but I still think that that's a little ways off. So I think that there's going to be the need for some of that expertise on the security side. I think that smart organizations are going to, or smart SaaS companies are going to build these vibe coding tools within their platform to allow you to customize via prompting rather than having to build something from scratch. Like, we'll give you a basic setup, but the way that you customize it is through vibe coding. And so I think that we'll see those larger companies moving towards that. Hey, we've got the infrastructure already set up. We've got the security already set up. It's a proven platform. Now you want to make changes? Cool. Here you go. Here's the vibe coding tool that goes inside of it.
Wow. That's
like the best of both worlds right there.
Yeah.
Right.
That's a really cool perspective. I love that.
To quote Sammy Hagar and Van Halen, that's the best of both worlds. Maybe I can get him as a sponsor.
Yeah. A little Cabo Wabo or whatever the hell his tequila is.
So now we're looking at like Dave said, this is kind of the marketing website of it. There's an entire mobile version of this that has a little bit different functionality, like enhanced functionality is what I would say. Well,
I'm going to take a step back because this is one of the things that I think Lovable needs to fix in their ecosystem. So the StreetVox application is a web-based application only. So it is responsive. And this was one of the mistakes I made when I first built this application. I did not start mobile. You're coding on a desktop, and I know better. I should have done this, but the tools at the time weren't where they were. And I'm going to jump into see if I can get this. There we go. It's refreshing here. So this is the actual Lovable environment, and you can go ahead. You can switch between a desktop environment, a tablet view, and then a mobile view. And I did all of the development in a desktop environment. And I was really proud of what ended up happening. And then I brought my phone out and I looked at it and went, wow, this is terrible. This is ugly. And so I would have started in the mobile view at the very beginning. And that's one of the big mistakes I made with this, is starting in the mobile view, because this is where we're consuming our content. This is how we're using the information. Now, while it has a mobile view and it works great in Safari or Chrome on a mobile device, Lovable does not output anything to a native Android app or a iOS app. It just doesn't do it, right? There are other vibe coding applications out there. I started using Rourke to do that, and tried to tie it to the Supabase database and get the same look and feel. But I feel like where Rourke is right now is even pre-Lovable shipped, like even before that. It requires a little bit more tech knowledge, development knowledge to get it to work. I have a feeling, again, I can't read into the minds of Lovable, but it would be amazing if they would take that and allow you to publish to a native iOS or Android application with what you've built to be able to do that. So while I'm trying to build it, it's kind of on the back burner because the web version works just as well. But because I started in the desktop version, there are things that don't look great when it comes to the web. And as the developer and designer and builder of it, I can become blind to that. So one of the reasons I really haven't pushed this out too much is I know that there's some of those things. So some of the people in our gym are actually using it now to track some of their challenges. And they'll ask me, hey, how do I go back in time to log a date previously? Well, that was a feature that didn't exist. It was, no, you have to log on your day. Well, what if I forget, or what if I just can't, I'm traveling, whatever. Okay, cool. Let's adjust the scoring to allow for that. Let's vibe code in the ability to go back in time. But even then, you know, if we're looking at a challenge here, like, where do I go to do that? Well, you have to know to hit this drop down and go to the timeline and then go to previous days. And if it's available, I logged on that day. Let's see, Tuesday. I don't have it enabled on this one, but there's another challenge where it's actually enabled that you can allow them to log back in time. There'd be another button on here, right? But this little section, if you're looking at it on the desktop version, it's a nice bar and kind of visual representation. I can easily jump between them. On the mobile version, it's kind of hidden. So that was one of the things that I wanted to make a change to. And kind of, you know, I mean, we can do that right now. You guys want to see that in action, making a change?
I'd love to, yeah.
Yeah. So inside here, I'm going to go ahead and move it here. And, you know, we're just going to go into the chat window here and say, let's see, the timeline. What is this? The timeline today. Timeline, leaderboard, roster, and drop down. Doesn't look great on mobile. It's easy to miss.
I think it's interesting too when you keep referencing that the tool didn't do it back then, and AI just wasn't as powerful back then. We're talking like beginning of summer.
I know, right? Like this was May, June.
This is not 10 years ago. This is literally less than 6 months ago.
Back in the day.
Yeah.
Oh, and for people listening, like, you didn't test this out. You didn't test this prompt that you're using out right now and know that it's going to do this cool thing. Like, this could totally take a shit in live here.
Yeah, I mean, it could. Now, the nice thing is it's not updating the live site. This is on a development. I actually have to publish it out. So I'm actually going to say, come up with a plan. up with a plan to.
Wait, you have 2 different environments then? You got to
Yeah.
publish.
Yeah, you've got a dev environment. Again, when you probably first started using it, you got one environment. Now you have a dev and a live environment, and now they've made it so you can have a dev and a live database environment. So you're not mixing data.
Wow.
As well.
Interesting.
Yeah. So
That's cool.
it's gotten significantly better in this short amount of time. So I'm just going to go ahead and just, I just said the today timeline, leaderboard roster, and settings bar / drop down on a challenge doesn't look great on mobile. It's easy to miss. How can we make a change to that to make it stand out a bit more? Come up with a plan to make this more user friendly. And I'm going to use the chat setting here. I'm going to turn that on because that won't actually do anything. It's just going to come up with the plan to make this happen. So I can actually read through what it's thinking about. So it's going to go ahead and think for a little bit here. We'll give it a second.
Yeah, this is some features that I haven't even used yet.
Yeah. So it's going to go ahead and examine the code. And if I click this show all, it's going to show you the thought process and what it's actually doing in the background.
You guys
Is that
know,
like you kind of proof it out first before it actually does it to see if it's on the right path that you want?
Yeah. So it's not going to give you an example, like a graphical example, but you can go through and see here are the issues that are with it. There's no label icon to indicate its navigation. It's easy to overlook. And now it's giving you some code stuff. And then it's saying, hey, this is why this is going to work. It's going to give a little bit visual difference. Here are the improvements. Here are benefits. So it's giving a bunch of information in there. And normally I would read through that to see, is there things I like? Is there things I don't like? And I can go back and iterate on it. Like, hey, I see you're doing this. I don't think that this is going to work, but hey, no guts, no glory. Let's look and see what this looks like. And again, remember what we're trying to fix here. If I go into the challenge itself, is the drop down, this thing it's so tiny and easy to miss, right? So we're going to turn the chat off and we're going to go ahead and just click implement the plan. And we're going to let it go. So now it's given us the plan for what I want to do. And I didn't give it much, right? I just said, it just doesn't stand out. It's easy to miss. How do we make that happen? So we'll go through and it's going to take a little bit. And so now it's just going to talk about what it's doing.
When you were showing the thought process before, Dave, would that be a good example of what you were saying earlier about as you were developing it, they came out with agents, and that's what helped improve the coding? Is now you've got these specialized agents that are looking at these requests and giving their own like specific input?
Yeah, I think it's looking at more. It's looking more at the database. You've got probably agents for the database, agents for the code, and things like that. I think the context window has gotten bigger as well because I would constantly have to remind it, why does it look this way? It looks this way in other areas of the application. Make it look this way, like make it consistent throughout the application.
Yep. Okay.
So enhance mobile nav gradient, preview the latest. Well, that doesn't look very good. So there it is. I don't think it did a great job with it, but one of the things that we could do, let's see if I can get my, again, going on the iteration here. If I could take a screen capture, I would, but apparently my screen cap is off. I would take a screen capture of that area there and put it in there and say, hey, can we eliminate that box around there? Or we could even say, let's box around it. And make the navigate text white. And let's go ahead and just see what it does. And we'll see if we can't get a little bit better version here. Another thing that they've introduced is history, so you can actually go through, and if you don't like something, you can jump back to a previous version of the code. So if it really mucks something up, you can roll back. So it's connected to GitHub repo. There you go. It's a little bit better. There's probably an icon sitting there. And it looks like my screen capture came in, so I can go ahead and maybe just take a quick screen capture. And we'll drop that into here and say, it looks like
This would be a good time to pump in best of both worlds while we wait.
So there you go. Now it's going to take a look at that screen capture and try to make the change based off of that.
You could also, if you found a design that you saw somewhere else, you could capture that and bring it into yours, right?
Yeah. There is a site, I've got it bookmarked somewhere, that has a bunch of UI that you can basically copy and paste to send into vibe coding applications. Like, hey, I really like the way that this works. Can we implement that?
Nice.
And so,
and correct me if I'm wrong, when you rolled this out, because I remember you did some internal testing like yourself, just running through it, obviously your own QA, and then you rolled it out to a small group, and you got like immediate, like you said, this is going to be buggy. That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for the bugs. I'm looking for how people are using it. Let me know how you're using it. Like, let me know what issues you're having. And you got boom, 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 boom. Here's a dozen of them. And I literally saw you upstairs going in, typing in, correcting it. Okay, that's fixed now. Okay, what's the next one? And it was like, damn. I mean, it's just so freaking quick now.
Yeah. And again, here you're seeing, this is like real world example, right? I sent it a screen capture of it, and it's saying, hey, we made that icon visible. It's still not visible, or it's in the wrong spot maybe. Let me see if I switch. Yeah. And it's doing some weird stuff there, right? It's doubling up that icon in there. So I would then take another screen capture and describe, hey, this is doubling up the icon in there. Perhaps one of those icons is meant to be next to the navigate, and, go through it a handful of times. So it's definitely not perfect, but you can go through and make these changes. And that's where a lot of that iteration is going to come through, right? And I think the important thing when you're building an application is build that minimum viable product and get it out there. Don't put too much into it to start. But now I'm getting real world feedback, right? Just like you said, Drew, people are saying, hey, I'm having trouble logging in. Okay, what's going on? Let me figure this out. Okay, got that tackled. Yeah. Or when one of the girls at the gym was trying to log her thing, like, how do I backlog these days? Well, it's right there, but you're not seeing that. Okay, how do I make that a little bit more visible so she can see where to go ahead and make those changes in there? And maybe we need to put in a little descriptor. I'll probably add in, for today, move the log your activities up to the top there, because it's buried at the bottom and I have to scroll down on my phone. But again, those are some of the mistakes I made by building it on desktop and not mobile to begin with.
Interesting. So knowing what you know now and going through all of this, number one, would you have built it still in Lovable, or is there a different tool that you would have used at this point?
I think I would have stayed with Lovable, primarily because...
Good answer. That's why we want Lovable to support us. Just kidding.
There is a big difference between Lovable and the other apps. This is a lot more layman friendly. I still think you have to have a basic technology understanding, particularly if you're going to build something complex, right? This connects to Twilio for text messaging. It connects to Resend for email reminders. It connects to Google for login, right?
Yep.
The nice thing was I could actually I vibe coding that in. Okay, now I want to hook the application up to Google for login. How do I do that? And it would vomit out a whole bunch of stuff, right?
Yep.
Okay, can we go step by step? Give me step one. Once I've completed step one, then I'll tell you and give me step two, right? Slow it down. I think any any AI system, chat system likes to just be super verbose. And some, we like things in chunks. Okay, don't give it to me all at once. But I never knew how to use Twilio. I didn't know how to set it up. But between having Lovable System guide me through that process on the technical side, and then using ChatGPT, going, hey, I got to get this set up. Lovable's asking me to do this. I can't find it in there. Help me, walk me through how to make this happen. So using both of those tools together got me to the point where I'm getting text messages, or anybody that's got a challenge now gets text message reminders if they log or if they didn't log their challenge for the day, right? But there still has to be a base knowledge of some of that. What is an API? What can you do with an API? Those kind of things.
Would you, I mean, obviously, it's kind of a loaded question because I think I know the answer to this already. Would you build this any differently at this point? You kept mentioning that I'd build it mobile first.
Yeah, it would be fun to rebuild this. I did log the amount of time and the amount of money I spent to get this done. And it took me, for version 1 of this, it was 76 hours. I logged it all of development over 6 weeks, and it cost me just shy of $800 to build it. The most expensive part of it was Lovable, and I spent $325 on the tokens for that. The next most expensive part of it was the Twilio, and that cost me $150. And then you buy tokens to continuously send out text messages. So I'll have to continuously replenish that over time. But I think I didn't quite know what I was doing with Twilio. And so I think I bought more than what I really needed. So, I've learned a little bit there. So buying those different tools, Google was used to build the AI video. That was about $125. And then GoDaddy for the domain, Supabase fees, which were pretty low. And then about $100 in Fiverr to get the vector-based version of it. Yeah. But again, thinking about it, 2-3 years ago, this would have been thousands of dollars, if not tens of thousands of dollars to build.
Many months, if not years, to fully build.
Yeah. Well, you wouldn't have learned anything because you would have been paying other people to build it for you. You weren't going to write that code. So not only did you save thousands of dollars, now you could build something like this faster. The next thing that you want to do, you know exactly what to do with it now. Yeah. Or if you want to make changes to this and expand this, I'm sure as you get more users, people will say, hey, it'd be cool if it did X. And you just go right to the keyboard and okay, it can do it now.
Yep. And that's a lot. That's happened so far is people that have tried it out have said, hey, I really want to be able to do this. I had somebody say, we don't want to do it every day. We want to skip weekends. We only want to do this on weekdays because that's when we're in the gym. Okay, we'll build a challenge that allows you to only do weekends or skip Sundays, right? And so just coding that in. The difficulty with my application is trying to test it because now I can build it, but is it actually going to skip a Sunday? I don't know.
Right.
And there's also weird things with time zones and stuff like that we have to consider with this application too, which I've definitely learned why developers hate time zones and having to deal with that.
That's awesome. And that is just really cool. We got to wind this down, but that is just a cool app. Like I've been wanting to have you on for a long time, even before you built the app, because a lot of the other technologies that you've been introducing and working with, but then seeing this, it's like, I got to get you on. We got to talk about this because this is a lot of where coding is going. It's going to that vibe coding, and it's getting easier and easier. And I keep saying we're going to get the iPhone sexy version here pretty soon. Lovable probably going to be that version.
Pretty damn close already. Yeah.
And when I used it, the website that we've been talking about that I used in when I was in a committee meeting, and I literally built it in the meeting. Lovable was out for a week, so that was literally ground zero when they came out. And I was in that meeting, and I said, I think I just heard a tool that just launched to do it, and it was the free version. And it took me 30 minutes, and here's your website. And that was just a 1-page marketing site, which was like super amazing. Now, again, that was less than a year ago. And we've radically come to this where you've got, login, you've got Google login, you've got date tracking, you've got variables in it. I mean, I can't
profiles, all that stuff. Yeah.
I can't imagine where we're going to be by come February. Like how much that's going to change stuff. Because there's a lot of other apps that I built in Lovable, 2 small ones that I'm going, I want to scrap it and start over. Just completely start over in Lovable, take the original prompt, add a couple things to it, and just enter it back in and build a whole new version.
Yeah, and it'll probably go twice as fast, if not faster.
Yeah, and it'll be even better in the end. So, well, Dave, I appreciate you being a guest of ours on the podcast, and appreciate you showing us your application and everything that you've done. Tell our viewers where they can find you.
Yeah, great. Thanks for having me, guys. I really appreciate being on here. I am a longtime viewer and listener of the podcast too. So
you're the one.
Yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn, Dave Valco. You could also search for me on Instagram as well out there if you'd like to.
Awesome.
Thanks a lot, man. I really appreciate you doing that. Drew and I have really wanted the podcast to go in this direction where we're actually showing what people can do, and you being willing to share that and going in and doing the editing and the whole story. It was awesome. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks. If you like today's episode, like and subscribe. Leave us a comment. Tell us what you are vibe coding. And if you want to look up lovable.dev and tell them that they should be a supporter and a sponsor of our show, we would appreciate you emailing them. Thanks, everybody.
See you guys.